All right, we've got a good group coming on here. We'll go ahead and get started. It's 10:35, so for those that are joining us here live, we've got a nice group. Thank you for joining us. We're going to do, today we're doing, we have a wonderful panel today with Virginia Dagerberg, Tony Meyers, and Marty Calfee. These are three incredible realtors with diverse experiences and ones that I know and have heard from colleagues and clients of theirs that they just deliver a wow experience. And I think we all do that in different ways. And so today I'd like them to be open and interactive. You can raise your hand if you want to in the chat and participant window down there, or if you want to put a question in the chat, we'll make sure to get to those. But if you could, I'd love you to share a little bit about just how long you've been in the business, and what is something that we'll just kick off with one item that you've either seen someone else do in real estate or outside that was a wow experience for you. So Virginia, we'll start with you.
Okay, been in the business since 2002. Came from a sales background in radio advertising sales with 5 radio stations here. I was the national sales manager for 14 years. My husband was buying, selling, renovating homes, and I thought, sounds like a good idea. Maybe I should be a real estate agent and represent him. Jane Anderson was representing him at the time, so he was working with Village. And Village was my first choice, and it's the only place I've been. So I've been here since 2002. And what was the other question, Ted? I'm sorry.
And something that in real estate or outside that you regard as that was a wow experience, something that impressed you or took you by surprise that someone did.
I would say something that took me by surprise was, and I'm going to go back to Mark Deutschman, and how he represented his clients, and how he, a lot of agents have a hard time, we were talking earlier before we came on, of getting the buyers to sign the buyer representation. And that was the first thing he did. He went right into the buyer rep agreement. It just made it easy. This is what we do. This is how we represent you. And so that kind of was something that was hard for me in the beginning, to ask people to sign those, until I watched him do it.
Like it. All right, Marty Calfee, how long have you been in the business? And give us a little history on you, and maybe something that you've experienced in customer service that's been a wow for you.
I've been in the business 30 years, and I'm new to Village, and I love it. Like I was telling you earlier, I love change, and this has been real exciting for me to be with a new hip company. I just love you guys. I was a teacher prior to going into real estate, so I still have the teacher's heart and love what I do. I have a philosophy of life that I carry into my real estate career that came from Katharine Graham of the Washington Post in the 70s, that I used to use on my students in high school. Love what you do and feel that it matters. And I feel strongly that what we do as realtors really matters to our clients. And we should always remember that. There's one thing that stands out in my mind that just popped into my head, and it does occasionally. I'll never forget this. Had a listing. I was fairly new in real estate. Had a listing in my own neighborhood, and it closed. And the buyer's agent, I drove by the house the day of closing, and she had a huge plastic, sign draped in the front yard welcoming the people to the neighborhood, her buyers to the neighborhood. And I got home and got in my mailbox, and I had received a postcard from her, because I lived in the neighborhood too, everyone in the neighborhood did, saying, please stop by today and meet your new neighbors. and told us all a little bit about them. Their children are 10 and 12. Da, 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 da. I was blown away. I thought, oh my God, I love this agent. What an amazing person. Years later, I recruited her when I was a managing broker for another company, and hired her as an agent and told her why I wanted her to come. I was so impressed with her. She's no longer doing this now. She had a bunch of kids and quit. But I was very impressed with that. That's really above and beyond.
And stuck with you. How long ago did you say that was?
Oh my gosh.
A minute.
25 years ago, maybe?
Love it.
I've never forgotten it. And
That's
I bet
awesome.
her clients never forgot it either.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you, Marty. All right, Mr. Meyers. Tony Meyers, everyone. Give us a little bit of your background into this. You have a very interesting story that got you into real estate for those that may not know you on here. And maybe something that you have experienced that's been a wow or memorable for you.
So I'm almost at 4 years right now. We're just coming up to it. So it's not a crazy long time, but I used to, I don't know if y'all know, but I used to build oil rigs. I was a commercial diver for 18 years. Worked underwater, talked to nobody, four people a month. I got here, didn't have much of a sphere, and just kind of exploded and told everybody in the world who I was and what I was doing, and it kind of worked. But I would say the wow factor for me, it really came from some of my good friends that helped me get going in this business. Their biggest thing was it really felt like you could the closing gifts that they would do were they were so thoughtful and caring. It wasn't like just a generic basket or something like that, because that's what I started doing in the beginning too. But like they would really dig into these people's lives and see what they like, and their gifts were reflective of that. So everything was customized to them. So now when we start doing when we have a home that gets past inspections and we're pretty sure it's going to close, we'll order something that's completely customized to the home, whether it's with a mat that has their names on it that says welcome, or it has their address on there, or the coordinates of where they live painted on the board. We've really gotten into the customization of it. And so I feel like that was one of the things that I really liked, that would really made me feel that my closing gifts were kind of inadequate, just because this one says, hey, I ordered this 25 days ago, this just didn't happen overnight, and here it is at closing, and it's specific to you. I didn't give Teddy the same one that I gave to Virginia. You know what I mean? And that's something to me that it really sticks with people.
Right. Love that. Love that. Yes. We'll maybe talk a little bit more about closing gifts. Anyone can jump in. This is open to the panel and everyone. As I said, I want this to be really open and interactive. I know each of you have different pieces of your process that carry different, I would say, wow to the experience. And so I'd love to look at this from a sort of a linear perspective in working with, let's start with buyers. Anything that you're sharing or doing in particular prior to contract in working with buyers that you feel like is unique or tries to give them a bit of a wow experience? Such as, or maybe even let's go through the process. So, for it might be in the way in which you show property, or that you in anything through that buyer process that you work through that to kind of make them feel just gives them a wow experience. I think sometimes we take for granted what we do as being maybe unique or special, that shows them that you care. But is there anything around the buyer experience that you can share that you do with them?
You want me to start? You
Please.
Care? Okay.
Yes.
I just showed houses this weekend, and it's going to be a difficult one. They sold their are retiring, sold their home on a gorgeous lot to a builder who's going to tear the house down. So they're a little emotional about that, but got a great price. Moving to Franklin to their grandkids. So got to be in a specific location. So I was very careful ahead of time to let them know exactly where we're going, what we're going to do, what we're going to see. Been emailing back and forth. Had a difficult time getting them off Zillow. Everything they sent me either didn't have a master down, or it had problems, or it was in a flood zone, or every single one. So eventually they finally decided to trust me on that. Got in the houses, and I had with me and many of you probably do this, it's probably not really above and beyond special, but attached to every sheet that had the listing, I had the comps and the information about when the house was sold last, what it sold for, just general information that they wouldn't normally have, how it ranked in the neighborhood, as far as, is it the highest price in the neighborhood? Is it average for the neighborhood? Is it the lowest price? That kind of thing, which they really appreciated, because one of them's a number person, and he really appreciated that extra effort. Every neighborhood we went into, I had an entire CMA of the neighborhood, just the down and dirty one. You get off real tracks, not like I'm an appraiser, but just a quick one, so that they understand what that neighborhood's about. Took them to the amenities, showed them all the amenities in the neighborhood. Had it been summer, I would have had a cooler in the car, and we would have been in the car to discuss everything, and had treats for them and drinks and all that, and water, bottled water, of course. But, we have to drive separate cars now, and wear masks and all that stuff. I not only opened every door for them, I opened the cabinets and showed that they had pull-out drawers, anything I could think of that they might want, trying to think ahead of them so they don't have to ask the questions. Of course, before we went, I let them know how best to communicate with me, and asked them how they would like for me to communicate with them. For instance, they stay up very late at night and get up very late in the morning. I'm just the opposite. I go to bed 9:30, 10 o'clock. I get up at 5:30, 6 o'clock, but text me anytime. As soon as I get up, I'll text you back and got them the information immediately, anything they need. Ask them along the way, do you need to stop? Do I need to, is everything okay? In between neighborhoods, we would stop, get out of our cars, stand 6 feet apart, and discuss the neighborhood they just saw. What do you think about that? Is that neighborhood a consideration for you? And tell them where we're going to go next, because they were following me, of course. And normally you're discussing all the neighborhoods and everything around and answering all their questions while you're in the car. And this makes it difficult now. I didn't realize until this weekend how hard that is, because you do have to stop at the end of the neighborhood and go over everything and let them ask all the questions they want to. As we drove through, I told them I was going to drive through a couple of neighborhoods that we don't have houses in, but in the next couple of months, something might come up, just to let them know about the neighborhoods in Franklin that are in their price range, just a general feeling. At the end of the day, I sent them a thank you email, told them I enjoyed being with them. I hope they felt like they had a good day. And if there was anything they wanted to discuss, let me know. Can't think of anything else, but that's my day in real estate.
I'm so glad you shared that. There's so many what may seem like simple nuggets in there that are just great reminders, and certainly new integration practices for those about even the magic of showing property together, which we can't do right now, but maybe we're on earpieces and talking while we're driving. So as I see things, I can point out, because to me, I always have believed, even though we've gotten away from it, that time in the car is the magic. That is the time. I see Virginia shaking her head, and Tony, that is the time to really get in touch with with more than just, bed, bath count, and kids need a fenced yard, right? We get into a lot more of the nuances of that.
Yeah.
So
Right.
thank you for sharing that. And Bobby always told me, right, have a sandwich and a granola bar and water, because we ain't got time to stop for lunch and have to buy somebody lunch. So not that people don't need or want that, but we're trying to make best use of everyone's time. So I think just having rations in the car is also can be a little bit of a wow, right? Or accommodating kids or things like that. Anyone else regarding the showing process have one of the things they add to that?
I'll add something to the showing process now, because it is so different. You have to meet your clients at the house and that type of thing. I've been showing investment property to a young lady that actually sold her and her husband a house 10 years ago. And so now they're in the process of she wants a project, something to fix up. So the houses we've been going into have been a little rough, and I really wasn't excited about having to go to some of these houses with everything going on with the COVID. So I bought a box of gloves and my wipes. And when we got to our first property, I had my gloves and I handed her a pair of gloves. And she was like, oh, I didn't even think of that. And her husband's a doctor, but that wasn't even in her thought process. And when we got to the front door, I had the wipes and I wiped the lockbox down before I opened it. Then I wiped the doorknob down. And then I had her come up and go in first. And once she got to the back side of the house, then I entered the house. But I think just those type of things right now, just letting them know you're thinking about it, not the whole process of, I want to find you a house to buy today, is that I was trying to be careful with her as well. So that's something you might think, if you're not already doing that, have those gloves and things in the car to hand to them when you get to a property.
So building on that, actually, I went ahead, my kids and my wife have been driving me crazy. So I went and bought gloves, and I bought those little sandwich bags, those little brown sandwich bags. And I've got the single serve Purell wipes and a set of gloves and a couple other things, but I put them all together. And so when I show up, I just hand them that bag. So they have the pre-made showing bag. And so it's all set up for them so that they can, and I do the same thing. I try to be the only one touching doors and doing all that stuff. So I just put my gloves on and go through and do the showing.
Right.
And to build on kind of what Marty does, it's just, I don't really use that time as much to showcase the home. We walk through the home and we're doing all the, we talk about it here and there, but I really just try to make my showing time, because we don't really have that conversation time anymore in the cars. I just make that my time that we have a conversation about them and their life and try to find some kind of relatable thing to them. But I really use that time to dig into what they're doing, what they're trying to accomplish, where they're going, what their dreams and goals and everything else are, so that I can try to find them the right place, I also try to, stress to them too that, especially with Zillow and Redfin and all these other crazy things, it's not really, my greatest skill to find the home that you want and love, because that picture of the home is in your head, not in mine. But, once you find it, that's where I'm going to come in. And, once we pick out a home, that's where I'm going to come in and make sure that, everything goes, my protections that I give you, everything goes smoothly like that, and that's truly where I try to give my expertise or whatever, but through the conversations that we have while we're actually walking through homes and time that we share face to face, that's when I try to just, basically dig into their lives personally and get as much as I can out of them, so that I, know what kind of person I'm dealing with, what kind of personality I need to be, how I need to present information to them, because that makes a big difference, if they're numbers people or they care what color the drapes are, that kind of thing. And then B, when we're going to be making offers, what kind of offer are we going to be expecting? Is this somebody that has to get a deal? They don't feel right if they didn't get a deal. Is it someone that loves the house and they're just like, buy it? You know, it does whatever the price is. You tell me what we need to write on the piece of paper and let's buy it. You know, so it's just that's that time, like you guys said, the time in the car is pretty much over, especially with all this stuff. You know, so I really try to use that 30 or 45 minutes that we're walking through homes and just make it a conversation and try to keep it easy and lax and not pointed questions or anything like that, but just getting to know you.
Yeah, another thing I do, I don't necessarily know if it's a wow, but it's a process of in showing property, and that is I make them rank the listings. So when I give them their stack of their buyer sheets, after we go to 3 properties, when they go in their car, they have to either rip it off and bundle it up and throw it in my back seat or theirs. They're not allowed to keep any more than 3 sheets or 4 sheets at the end of the day. So after we've gone to the 3 houses, number 4 either is put in order of where it is in the 3 or it's in the back seat, because I don't want them taking that sheet home. We don't get to pick one bathroom and garage from another. So, and then I make you nickname the house. So I can think of houses people have bought of Semper Fi and different names, because they're not going to remember the one with the orange shutters, you know, because so I make them pick an identifiable thing about that home and they write it at the top of their MLS sheet. I write that same nickname on the top of mine. And that sort of becomes a moniker when we're referring to those houses as they're trying to narrow down. Now, depending on if somebody's, you know, likely buying that day. But when I find that people
love like the process of like crumpling it up and throwing it in the back seat. Like there's something to that, not just sticking it at the bottom of the deck.
It is big. I don't let them, and sometimes they'll just, you can tell it's like challenging their all of their OCDs about it and their evaluation. What if no, we are letting this go. You are not leaving with more than 3 sheets, and they're going to be in order. So because when you leave the last one, if you had to make that decision, all things understood, put it in the order. So that's just, I don't know if it's a wow. They seem to get into it. They like the nickname. I'll go, okay, is this one getting a nickname or is it going in the trunk? So, and they feel bad like throwing trash. I'm like, this is my reward at the end of the day to know that we did work. Is this balled up listings in the back? So
Yeah.
that was part of my fun.
I like that.
Ted, can I add one more thing before we go on to another topic?
Yep.
Tony brought this to my mind. He was talking about how many questions he asked the buyers, and the focus is clearly with him. It's all on the buyer, not him. And that's the way it should be. And I've always tried so hard to remember that it's all about them, all of it, completely, totally. It's not anything about me. They always want to know where I live, because that's where they want to live too, because they think, oh, that's a good investment. But other than that, they don't care to know anything about me, and I don't want them to. I went to closing one time. I'll never forget this, and I use it in classes I used to teach. We were sitting there, and the closing attorney walked out of the room for a few minutes, and the lady turned around to me and she said, so Marty, do you have children? And I had been working with these people for months, at least 3 months. And never once did they know anything about me. They didn't know if I was married. They didn't know if I had children. And they shouldn't. I was so proud of myself. I thought, I've really been a good listener this time. And I think that's something we all just got to remember, you know, not really listen to them. Don't be sitting there thinking what you're going to say next.
Yeah.
You know, really listen to what they're saying. That's and then you'll really do a good job.
Tina, I want to, I've unmuted you. Did you have a question for the panel?
No, I didn't.
All right. Scott Saunders, I know you had a question for the panel about the buyer process.
Yeah, I'm here. I had one question and it turned into 2 questions actually, regarding the search phase when you're helping buyers look for properties, because I typically have more buyers than listings going on. So the balance, my question I guess, is the balance of auto notifies and things getting sent to them and them looking versus me seeing a certain property and making a point to specifically send that to them. You know, that seems pretty valuable, but if I did that for everybody, I'd be doing that all day long. So sometimes I have trouble figuring out the balance of just letting go whatever goes to them or really trying to find certain properties. Do y'all have a methodology or strategy on that? Or There you go.
Yeah, I do. You Tony, go ahead.
I was going to say, I really encourage them to look. I set everybody up on an auto notify, and after the first showing, I'll go in and revamp that because I feel like I get a lot more information as to what they're looking at once we've seen one. But I set them up, I had them on Home Snap for a while there, and then now I've got the access to the Parks app, which is really cool because you can see what they're searching. So I try to get them searching on that. And then, I try to just really, I tell them everybody wants to be on Zillow for some god awful reason. I tell them it's okay. If you really have to search on Zillow, do it. But then if you find an address, type it into any of these other programs or apps that I've given you so that you can see if it's a real listing or not. So that's one of the things that I definitely encourage them. I'm like, there's just one of me, and you already know what your house needs to look like, right? So I'm guessing. So I really try to get them as many different tools as possible to search on their own, and then just send me addresses.
I give them several different auto notifies. If they I'm new to Village and all the Village tools and Parks tools, of course. So I'm still using RealTrax auto notify, and I do after we talk a lot, I do a map search and set them up on auto notify by map search and all the criteria they want. Try to really narrow it down. Neighborhoods after this weekend, I went back in and they narrowed it down to 2 neighborhoods. So I did away with those other auto notifies and only did those 2 neighborhood searches. So you have to keep narrowing it down for them as it becomes more clear to you, what is it they really want?
And where do they really want to be?
That's right. Where do they really want to be? But with that in mind, you got to remember that sometimes they don't really know what they want.
Exactly.
How many times have, Virginia, I know as long as you've been in it, like me, you've seen this happen. I've worked with people before and I've shown them, they say, I have to have a master down. I have to, or whatever, something they have to have, or I have to be in this school district, nowhere else. But then they'll run across online a house and want to see it. And I'll say, that doesn't have a master down. Or it's not in that. Oh, it's okay. We just want to see it. And they told me in the beginning they didn't want a pool. And I'll say, but it has a pool. Yeah, we just want to see it. One of them really, really wanted a pool and just didn't say it. And that's the house they bought. Wasn't in the right school district that they wanted. Was not a master down, but it had a pool. So they really don't always tell you exactly what they want.
Because they probably, like most of us, don't really know what you want because you find something that's totally not what you were thinking about, but
they like
hey,
it.
I like that. Yeah.
That's right. I can relate to that. Yeah. So you have to watch that. You have to make sure they know how to search themselves, or you won't find that out. You'll be limiting yourself and them. So you have to make sure they know how to do a proper search and teach them how to do that.
Love it. Thank you. We'll stick on the buyer side before we shift to listings. As we think through the buyer process, of course, once we go to contract and then move into closing, is there anything that you're doing in that process that you find is that extra touch? And again, these, as you're hearing and seeing, it's not really about money or gifts as much as it is thoughtfulness and intention in trying to serve them best. Is there anything that comes to mind and during the once you're under contract through closing? Tony mentioned some things about closing gifts, but things during that process that you have integrated or you've seen others do that you have thought that was really touching?
I once took 10-year-old triplets ice skating while their parents picked out all of their selections for the house they were going to build. And since then, they've all grown up and bought houses. They still talk about those days. Remember that? We went skating.
I love it. I haven't officially done babysitting to that degree yet, but
I never have since. And I hadn't before. It's the only time. But I just thought, what the hell are they going to do with three 10-year-olds while they're from another state? They don't know anybody here. And they all played hockey, so I thought they'd love to go ice skating.
Yeah.
And they had fun laughing at me.
One of the cool things you also can do right now because of Pinterest is when they're trying to decide what color am I going to paint the front door, how are we going to do this, you can set them up and forward them things that show them, especially, and because I love it anyway. And you can show them, this is what you can do to that front porch. This is what you can do to that front door. And they love things like that, especially, and probably shouldn't say this, but especially the females, because they're really into Pinterest. And so that's something you can do now where you don't have to really touch them. You're just sending it to them and you're staying in touch through the process to get to closing.
I love it. I'm going to do that.
It's a good one.
I tell you one thing that's kind of cool now with technology is on Wayfair, when you have a lot of the you have a lot of empty homes that you're trying to sell, and a lot of people can't really see what their furniture is going to feel like in there or what style furniture is going to look like. So if they, I'll talk to them and say, when they talk, oh, we have to have room for our couch. I'm like, what is it? Is it a sectional? Is it whatever? So I'll go real quickly on Wayfair, and it might not look anything like theirs, but I'll find, a big chunky sectional if that's what they have. And you can take it into that house and you can look at my room and hold it back. It will put it in there and you can take a picture of it. And I just email them a picture or text them a picture of it. And they can see what that piece of furniture is truly going to look like in that room from the picture. And because it's an empty room and people have a hard time with spatial, awareness, like how is my things going to fit in here? So if they say I've got this huge table for 12, and I need to have a dining room that's going to fit a table for 12, it doesn't take but 3 seconds to find a giant table on Wayfair, and you can take a picture in any room with that table in it, and they'll see what it's going to look like. If it touches the sides, it's the wrong house.
Right. It's a great idea.
So that's been kind of something extra I do.
I love that in as well as what you said, Virginia, because the Pinterest, and again, you're opening up a potential commitment, but it's a great collaborative tool for you to share things, right? And where everybody can constantly be looking at, you could create a board, as they call it, for each client or home, and or especially in new construction, I think that's appropriate. Another app that I use or share and suggest to people, I put it in the notes here, is Color Snap. That's Sherwin-Williams app on your phone, and you can paint your house simply by just holding up the phone to the house and picking the color, and it'll paint the house and the room right there for you real time. And then you can forward that. So these are things, I think, Maggie, you had a question about how we can, what extra things could we offer shopping for people long distance. I think some of these tools are helpful to give to our buyers when they begin the process, so they can start to get comfortable with these things as they are trying to visualize even what is the size of beds. If you're looking at vacant property, what's the size of a king bed? Maybe making sure we're bringing a tape measure to the showings now, or just additional tools that otherwise maybe we're showing more vacant property that would help people with those type of considerations. So good and great points.
I actually have tape measures that I had made years ago, and I still buy them. And they're just a little small yellow tape measure. I have the box in the back of my car. And when we go into a house and that question comes up, I go straight to the car, get the tape measure. It's got my name on it, and my email, blah, 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 and hand it to them. And people love tape measures. Love them.
I don't think you can get enough. And all these years, I have not ever even considered doing the tape measure yet. I was born and raised from a realtor. In fact, this sign used to hang in his office in the 70s, and he would give away 3-foot yardsticks, because back in the day you'd get, Pins Realty 3-foot yardsticks. They were bright yellow, and of course enormously inconvenient to put anywhere, but you got a good whipping with one there. Hey, that's a nice
There it is.
There it is.
That's great.
There.
I love it.
And they're small, and they love it. That's a great gift.
Perfect. Love that. It's a good time to be looking at creative ideas like that. How about with the buyer? Any other ideas or things that you do as far as the closing process? I know the the famous Michelle Lundgren used to throw a closing party. She'd have a video she had done of them showing property, and like it was impressive, but well beyond what I was ever gonna go through. It had balloons and other things. Anything you do as part of the closing process, the actual closing and or closing gifts and post close.
Two things that I do. One that I started doing about 6 months ago, and it has been like the sweetest thing. And I didn't really mean to like draw tears, but during the walkthrough, the final walkthrough, I took a picture of them in front of the house, and I immediately send it to, Walgreens and have a print made. And I've got a really nice frame already made up. So that's part of their closing gift, where they have that
Nice.
photo at closing. And then I always remember the pets and the kids in the closing baskets, So I work with Crossroads Campus, Crossroads Pets a lot. And so they always give that dog treats there. Shout out, if you need any, let me know, because we have a special village rate. They sell those to us at cost if you want some. So yeah, and then the kids stuff, depending on their ages, I always try to include them too. So.
Awesome, Maggie. If you could post that pet resource, I think we'd all like to take advantage of that. Maybe do that on the Village exclusive page, or I'll also post the notes, because I think some people are putting some great things in the chat window. So I'll make sure to post the notes to this in the Village exclusive page as well. That's fantastic.
Another tip, when
Yeah,
you're
Marty.
we have a little gift shop in Franklin that's my favorite place, and I try to buy them something that I would love, but very personal to them. Like, if they don't drink, do not get them a wine decanter. If they have a huge front porch on their new house, get them a big lantern or a big pot to put on the front porch with flowers in it, something like that. Try to make it personal. But one tip, while you're there, somebody probably referred those people to you. Or at my stage in my career, that's all I work with, is people who either I did in the past or they referred someone to me. Find them a gift while you're there as well, and hand deliver it to them and thank them for that referral. And lots of other things you can do. For years, the minute someone gave me a referral, I got online and ordered them a tin full of Christie cookies. And when that got to be $50, I quit doing that. And I sent them a thank you note and a Starbucks card in it or something, but immediately, even before I sell the people a house or even meet the people, if they referred somebody to me, they're going to get something immediately saying thank you. And then sometime before closing or after closing, they're going to get a gift, just like the people who are buying got a gift, just as nice, because they're your lifeblood. So treat them well, and in person, thank them in person if there's any way at all.
For sure. That in person and the personalization of the gift, both of those things I think are the biggest things you could possibly do. I mean, it doesn't really matter that you're spending however much you're spending or whatever, but if you get something that touches them personally, you know what I mean? That really shows, hey, when we were walking around that first house, we've looked at 40. We were walking around that first house, I said something and he remembered it, and he bought a gift that says I was listening. I mean, it could be $10. It doesn't really matter. It's just the personalization of it is truly where you're going to score points.
Huge, huge.
I have a quick story about when I was new to real estate, for those of you who are listening who are new to the business and you think you can't afford to do that or can't afford a gift or whatever. One of my very first closings, and I think my husband almost divorced me over it. It wasn't the first closing, but in the first few months, and they were first-time home buyers, young couple, had saved like crazy to buy their first home. And those of you who've ever been in my classes have all heard this story, because I've told it to everybody who's a new agent. It was hard to do, but it won me over the years, untold amount of business and thank yous. I did not know, nobody taught me this in the beginning, that I was responsible for absolutely everything that happened, everything during that process. Nobody taught me that. I learned it the hard way. About a month before closing, I called their lender. I did not give them the lender. They didn't need my help on that end, they said. So I thought they really didn't. So I didn't even enter into that part of the process. But a month before closing, I thought the house is about built. I better call the lender and just make sure she knows the date of the closing. And when I called and said, I'm calling for my buyers, Mary and Joe, da-da-da-da, she said, who? And I said it again, and she said, I don't remember them. And when she checked, not only had she not done anything to get them ready for this loan, they no longer qualified. And remember, this was 30 years ago. The rates had gone up so high, they no longer qualified. They had put every dime they have in a non-refundable account with the builder to build this home. In order to get to closing, I had to give that lender, that bank, not only all of my commission, but $1,000 more. So one of my first transactions, I took $1,000 to closing. And at the time I thought, boy, I can really not afford to do this. This is hard. Worked all these months, haven't made any money, just spent money. But you can do it. You can do the right thing. Yes, you can say all you want. Oh, I wouldn't have done that. That lender should have stepped it up. No, I've taught this now for 30 years, and I believe it strongly. We are responsible for every single thing that happens in that transaction. Not the other realtor, not the lender, not the closer. We got to make sure that it's all done right.
You're not a realtor unless you've bought a couple of fridge and washer dryers. I mean, let's just face it.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
When you bought the whole closing, you really learn.
Yeah.
Some other things that brought to mind was just being clear in communication with all the parties to help them. So when you do bind an offer, we send an email that recaps all the dates and asks the other side, please confirm if you see any discrepancies. Just to remind everybody, we're all on the same page. We do a real recap when we send an offer, when we receive an offer, when we're sending it to the buyer, we give a recap of the offer in an email. And again, when we go binding to all parties to make sure we're all on the same page, especially with reminders about items to remain in the home. And we communicate that at several phases of the email so that poor seller doesn't accidentally have the movers, move the beer fridge, and all of a sudden we're doing cake stands in the front yard, figuring out who's buying the next one.
You don't want to learn that. You don't want to learn that the hard way.
No, you don't.
You mentioned referrals. Anything that you're doing in particular that to acknowledge referrals? You mentioned the gift from the gift shop. Anything else anyone else does when you get somebody gives you a lead, and how to acknowledge those referrals?
I do the $5 Starbucks anytime one comes in, and if they close, I do something much nicer for them.
The thanks a latte.
Yeah, I mean, if someone's like, hey, whoever sent me to talk to you, whatever, I always make sure I send a little personal card with a handwritten note. I'm not exactly sure what it says because my assistant writes them for me, but it's a little handwritten note, and it has a $5 gift card. So-and-so talked to me. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And then 30 or 40 or whatever, how many days later, I send them another one that says, hey, Jimmy just finished, purchasing his house. He's all moved in, and, we really appreciate you, having confidence with us and sending your people my way. And it's, it's usually something that's we do. We try to do, I always tell them, try to do something within the $100 range, but something, a much nicer gift than a $5 latte. Right. But I always give them a cup of coffee because it's just, thanks for thinking of me. Right.
And everybody loves Starbucks. So that's a great one to have on hand.
Yeah.
You can get those branded. I know my home inspector has worked a creative way where for tax purposes, he buys a bulk thing of gift cards for gas, and he may or may not, because you can tax deduct gift cards and certain things as gifts for all his fuel and groceries with gift cards, and has them branded with his logo in the corner for gas and for groceries. So If you're
Wow.
all interested in that, I can post links to that.
Ted, I just noticed Rebecca put up a thing that said, oh, aren't gifts supposed to be less than a certain amount? That's just for tax purposes. That you can give somebody anything you want to give them as long as you're not buying the contract, as long as you're not buying the client. But one of the things that you can do, if somebody refers a friend to you, especially if that friend is from out of town and an excellent buyer, high-end kind of person, is take both couples. My husband and I have before gotten a private room at a really nice restaurant and taken the new buyers and the old buyers, the ones who referred them, to a dinner. Now that can cost hundreds of dollars, but those are clients for life, big time, big clients, big for years. But it's one of those things I've done that's over the top, but it's always paid off.
Yeah.
Any other touching gifts? I've done massages. I've done car wash details. I've done the car wash people that come to you. Any other things that you all have done that creatively that people find?
Don't forget to take care of the, like if you've got a referral source, and I've talked about this, but I've got a group of guys that have referred a ton of business to us. I met them a few years ago, wrote them a note randomly. I met them at an auction, like for 2 seconds, wanted to get to know them better, wrote them a note saying, great job in the auction. Looks like you raised a bunch of money. I'd love to get lunch sometime. And ended up connecting with them. They've given us like 12 or 13 referrals over the last 2.5 years. And they travel a lot, and they've all got kids, and their wives get stuck at home with the kids while they're off, whining and dining clients. And I learned this from John Rulin in Giftology, but I just kind of, I'm nice to the guys, but we got massage gift cards, spa gift cards to all their wives. And we did that 1 year, and I literally got phone calls from the wives in tears saying, nobody has ever treated us this way. It was like, it was not hard. And it just, anyway, I think those are referrals to lives too. So take care of the periphery as well, not just the periphery.
I call those ambassadors. I try to take them out once a month and do something. Of course, that's gotten a little crazy with the times today, but I try to take them out and meet with them once a month. And of course, it's always on me, whether it's for drinks or for lunch or for whatever it is. And so I've got a handful of ambassadors that are just referral engines, and they keep sending them to me. And the least I can do is spend $100 a month on them, just taking them out, or $50, whatever it is, to go out and do something nice. But the ambassadors, definitely, I dote upon them for sure.
So this may be to the extreme, but from the beginning, at the end of the year, I had every single person who had referred anyone to me, had bought a house, sold a house, whatever, buyers, sellers. I had a party at my house and had just a huge Christmas party. And that has grown now to where I do this twice a year, not at my house any longer. That was the one and only time. No. I probably did it like 3 years in a row at my house. But what I do now is I rent the patio at Urban Grub at Christmas. And usually like the Wednesday or Thursday before Christmas, I do from 5p until 8p, which means that you can cut it off at a certain time and you don't have just a ridiculous bar bill or whatever. And it also gets people to come by on their way home from work. So if you have it between 5 and 8, it gives them someplace to stop by. They come in, they have drinks, we have food. So I do that at Christmas. And then on Cinco de Mayo, which this year, I guess we won't be doing this, but I rent the patio at Park Cafe and do the same thing. From 5 until 8, you come by. And if anybody wants to stay after that for the restaurant, then they can. But when they go up to the bar, the bartender says, well, Virginia and George were paying for this until 8 o'clock. Do you still want this drink? And they're like, oh, yeah. So it's good for the restaurant, too, because people generally don't leave at 8 o'clock. But that's something that it gets costly. But I feel like all those people have been so loyal to me for the last 18 years that that's something that even if they don't come, they're getting that invitation. So they get something in the mail from me twice a year, regardless. They're getting an invitation to the party. And they're really fun. And it's really a nice way to say thank you for all those people that they aren't buying houses anymore. They've already bought their forever house, but you still get to see those people.
Yeah.
So
I try to do one as like a family party, and I try to do one as like an adult party, because I feel like some people don't want to go hang around kids. So I went for one party, I rented out Above All over there in Brentwood, that big trampoline park. And let me tell you, that was the most cost-effective party I've ever done. It was $1,000. You had the whole place to yourself for like 4 hours. And that's all it cost was $1,000 total. And we rented out the whole place. I invited, everybody. And of course, only the ones with families showed up. Everybody that's, they're older or don't have kids, they don't want to hang out with a bunch of screaming kids. But the ones with families were having a blast. I went and got
an adults only version of that. I love it.
What's that?
Do an adults only realtor version of that.
Yeah, so the adults only has a lot more drinking and doesn't
Get
make
the stress out. Go jump on some trampolines.
Yeah. But we do, we try to do a party that's, basically adults and drinking and that kind of atmosphere as well. So I break them up and of course, like you said, they do get costly if you let them, but those are definitely awesome once a year.
yeah, that's cool.
I love it. I think you could, even with the Cinco de Mayo party, Virginia, I know this group or there's others, you could get creative with this, just have drive-through margaritas. People can go pick up a pitcher and then, plan a Zoom call and have everybody get on there and they, wear their best Cinco outfit and do, play Quarantingo. We've got my friends, I'm looking for it. I was going to show it to you, but we played quarantine bingo right on Zoom and it was hilarious. So I have all the materials for that. Anybody wants to delve into putting together a Quarantingo, it's hilarious and it wasn't very difficult. So we don't have much time left, but so much more to cover. We might need to do this sucker in a two-parter because we really only got into buyers and referrals. Is anything around the listing process that you, as part of your process that you've shared that or do that is some of that wow that you'd like to add?
Oh, I do. For many years, I had a source, and they're out of business now, at Lifeway Christian store. They sold real beautiful leather binders and would monogram them in an hour. And so if I had a listing presentation, $25, I would go buy one of those and stick my listing presentation in it and leave it with the homeowner with their last name on it. And I'm sure that got me several listings. I mean, who does that? Leave them with a nice leather binder. And they probably thought it cost $100, but it didn't. And now I'm trying to find somebody who does that. They do them online, but so often you don't have time to get one that's monogrammed online. So if anybody knows of someone who does that locally, I'd love to know.
Hey, Ted, I just wanted to say thank you to everybody. I do have to run. I've got someplace I got to be here right now, but it was great to see everybody again. I know I don't make it to the office that often, and then of course nobody makes it to the office now, but let me know when we're doing it again, man. I'm in. Just give me a heads up.
We appreciate you so much, Tony, and if we can, we'll wrap here. Marty and Virginia, do you have about 5 more minutes?
I do.
Awesome. We'll wrap up. Anything else on the listing? I know we've got some. I'll track through on these comments here. Anything else on the listing process that I love that, Marty. During that process, to make that, I know I'll share one thing that we did that again, most best ideas are stolen from others, but I was doing a top 10 reasons you love your home. And I put it 11-17 in an acrylic sitting in the house. And so, beyond crown molding, and here's the kitchen and what people aren't reading in MLS, I think there's a lot of intangibles that the buyers and many times the agents don't know. So I make my sellers, I send them a worksheet as their seller homework as part of their disclosure. And I have a utility sheet and it's like, okay, we're all the utility providers. Who does trash? When is trash? And then I ask them to do a list of their favorite neighbor and or who watches the kids or watches the dogs in the neighborhood for a transition when the home sells. But when we're going to market, I do the top 10 things you love about your home. And so I'm looking for, where do you love to sit and read books or have coffee, or do you have deer or turkey come through the yard, or where's your favorite intangibles about the neighborhood or the house that may otherwise be missed?
I love those ideas.
I love it too. I'm stealing that.
I'm writing this down.
I know. I love that one. That's a great one. That is a
The
great
top
idea.
10 reasons you love your home is really a favorite of mine. I'm happy
I
to
love
share
that.
the template that I
Please.
use, and
That'd be great.
it's just easy. It's easy and
Yeah.
free, and it's something well beyond the brochure. I only print one copy, and like I said, you can, if you didn't want to put it in an acrylic stand in the home, I do one that has the acrylic stand and it has the pocket for my folded brochures. So it's all in one. I stick my business card on the back of it and I label it number 1. So like as we check out signs and lock boxes, the frame goes out as part of that package, so we know we can get that back at the end. But
Yeah.
I'll share that as well.
Ted, I might mention,
Right.
there's some things I've learned over the years that, because people just tell you, they'll say, you know, we interviewed 3 realtors and the reason we hired you is, one of them told me once that the reason he hired me is because I actually crawled up that pull down staircase to look and see his storage area. He was very proud that he had floored that and finished it all out and how nice it was. I had another one time who said, you spent so much time, you even looked in my garage, because they were proud of their garage. They took care of it. It was spotless. And I mentioned that. So don't forget those things, that make sure you see every bit of that house. And if it's bad, you're going to have to tactfully tell them. But if it's good, you can compliment them on that. And those things stick with people really big time. One more tip. I once listed a house and spent 3 hours in that house with the buyers making a list of all the things they had to do. And it was overwhelming. And I felt bad about that. But then when I walked out to go get in my car, I realized I had not looked at the house seriously from the outside as I walked in. And it needed landscape help badly and trim paint. So I had to actually go back in that house. And that meant I left with such a negative that I just felt really bad about it. So as you go into that house, take a really good look at the outside so that you know what you're dealing with. Just tips.
I love it. I love it. Scott posted something in here on the notepad here. I don't know what that JPEG is. Scott,
Is that somebody telling me where to get a notepad? Where to get no?
My lender sent me, I just took a picture of it, a little customized monogrammed notepad that folds out with a pen, you know, simple on the inside, but a great looking monogram on the outside. Mitch Malahan, I don't know if you know him or not, but I'll ask him where he got it, but it looks like it probably wasn't super expensive, but it's this.
That's nice. Yeah, that's nice enough.
That is nice.
Super cool.
Mm-hmm.
He probably, you know, got 200 or 300 of them for not very much money. So
Very nice.
I also posted an All About You form. I've adapted that from lenders that have used that. So you can see that in the notes. When we do pre-consultation, we like to get the All About You, and it's of course kids and pets and anniversaries and favorite brownies and beer, and gives you some insight as to interests that they have. May not seem as organic as just getting that stuff on the fly, but it's a nice way to intake. What I like the most about it is that it asks them, you know, do you have a financial planner, and how would you rank them on a scale of 1 to 10? Do you have life insurance? Do you have an insurance professional? Do you have a CPA? Because I'm looking at putting together what I call like, you know, your winning team for life. And so I want to do business with the people that they like to do business with, and are other referral sources for me to tap that. I haven't been as consistent as I should want to be about this, but I've seen people use it with incredible success to align yourself with other referral sources that they like. So I posted that. You're welcome to take a look at that. And I will also post my, what I call my seller homework template. We're 11:35. I know we've covered so much, and I hope we haven't exploded any brains out there, but I want to give everybody give us a Zoom high fives and for Virginia and Marty and Tony out doing the tough work. And appreciate you so much. Any parting
Really
thoughts
good
or
info.
questions?
It's gonna be like required watching for every new agent and experienced agent.
Thank you.
There's so much.
Thanks
I
for
realize.
inviting me.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I think we could
Thanks,
split
Ted.
this into 2 parts and continue it on. So, and I will get a task force to get Quarantingo going for Village. We'll do a test run with just Village agents, and then we can show people how that works to take that on. I think that'll be our new principal broker's first team building activity.
Thanks, Ted.
Thank you
Thank
all.
you,
Have a
Ted.
good day.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Next class will be wear your favorite hat to class. So look for that for next time. I kid you not.